the 2.17 trillion supplementary budget that's passed today by the National Assembly gets us talking. Mr. Paul Alaje is an economist. He's with us virtually from Lagos. Thank you so much, Mr. Alaje, for joining us tonight on the program.
Yeah, thank you so very much for having me.
Thank you so much indeed. Bring us up to speed and give us an understanding of what this means. This budget is what the president under Bola Tinubu, or the presidency or the federal government hopes to spend between now and December, or when the 2024 budget kicks off. Is that right?
Well, this budget is expected to add to what we had initially budgeted for. Recall that President Muhammadu Buhari had presented a budget last year, which of course, from the presentation of President Bola Tinubu, it reveals that that budget, in spite of several worries we have about capacity of government to generate revenue, that budget has not been able to even meet its own revenue targets. As a result, we needed to add more to the budget. Some things are very clear from this budget. One, Nigeria has major revenue crisis. Two, in spite of government saying subsidy removal has been implemented, as well as evaluation of exchange rate, all may still not be well in the medium term and in the long run. Therefore, we have seen the president presented to the National Assembly some key areas, for instance, defense, works. We have seen student loan, which of course is completely new, and it was not envisaged by the last administration. What seems to have worried a lot of people remains the issue of vehicles, which of course is very clearly stated in that budget, and yachts, which have now become an issue of public debate. I've seen that the presidency is saying that yacht is not for the office of the president, perhaps it's from the Navy for security reasons. But this budget in itself, as when you look at the window from 1st of November, which of yesterday, till the end of 2023, is what a lot of people have concern about. And we should also recall that the MTF for 2024 to perhaps 2026 seems to have also been passed. By implication, we should be expecting 2024 budget to also be presented. And National Assembly has promised that that budget will be presented, and they will ensure that before 31st of December, that budget is passed. By implication, going by what National Assembly has promised Nigeria, we can therefore say that this budget is supposed to be by 2023. A good thing, some things that I saw that are very good about that budget is the issue of Third Mainland Bridge infrastructure. I've also seen housing, and I must say that 100 billion naira voted for housing is abysmally small for the housing crisis that we have in Nigeria today. I think government will need to consider, especially in 2024 budget, because when you look at housing, it's a major employer of labor. We have employment crisis in Nigeria, and we also have a major infrastructure crisis in the country. I want to believe that even though it appears that these budgets are scaled through, but it's important for us to pick some lessons from it. The level of awareness among Nigeria seems to be unprecedented as regards the issue of budget. I was thinking that the mere supplementary budget may not attract so much attention, but to my surprise, the attention given to this budget is not particularly different from when the main budget was being presented.
Alaje, what I needed you to clarify first and foremost, before we delve more into the details, is that this is a supplementary budget meant to be spent for the remainder of the 2023 appropriation or budget cycle. Is that right?
Yes, it's supposed to be spent for 2023 appropriation cycle. What does that mean? In case 2024 is not passed as at when due, then this budget may extend. Again, even if it's passed and there are projects that have not been fully implemented in 2023 budget, the budget will still run its course. But clearly speaking, from the title and from the definition of budget in Nigeria, it's for a year. It's adding to the original budget presented for 2023. And this is what I have not seen so much of it in the media. We need to combine this new budget to the old budget for us to now see how much in loans are we financing, are we talking about in our budget? Because they are just the same. It's for the same period of time. It's an addition. Speaking to laymen, it's an addition to the previous budget that is passed, which is 2023 budget.
So, I mean, now my next question will be 2.17 trillion. Where is there any place in this budget where it's stated how this is going to be funded?
Already, before the budget is even passed, we have seen that about 100 billion has been borrowed through. We've seen open market operation with very interesting rate had gone up, which means borrowing have started in earnest. And you have also seen that government is expecting some loans to come from outside that are both positive and negative, so that it doesn't sound as if criticism is what we do on government. No, when such money is borrowed, sometimes it's going to, most of the time it goes to foreign reserve, and you see that foreign reserve will boost, not because we are produced or exported, not because of remittances coming from abroad, but because we are borrowed in hard currency, and what will be used domestically will be in naira. Unlike what we have seen in previous administration, I will not mention who was the head of government at that particular time, where state government have come to harass the federal government to release dollar to them. You know, some of the dollar that should have been in foreign reserve to release as equivalent of their portion of the national share. A lot has happened, but we are hoping that we will see a major difference so that we can see stability in naira in the coming period.
So give me an understanding, Mr. Alhaji. In January of this year, former President Buhari signed 21.8 trillion 2023 budget. If I put the figure of the supplementary budget, which is 2.17 together, it takes me to about nearing the over 24 trillion. Is that right? That is what we'll be saying we have as a budget of 2023. Is that right?
Yes, it is right. So that is now what we have for 2023 budget, because we need to combine both the previous budget signed by President Buhari and what his predecessor, President Bola Tinubu, is putting into place. So it is these two budgets, because government is a continuum. Whether they are from the same political party or different political party, we are talking of government of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. So we have to put these two budgets together. And in future, what students will study in Nigerian university and those abroad, or what will be published by Bureau of Statistics, will be this figure, not the old figure President Buhari submitted, because there is a supplementary and it's still adding to our national expenditure for the year.
So give me an understanding also, Mr. Alhaji, the debt burden that Nigeria has, the debt servicing part of this budget, the overhead, does it really make sense for a country that should be focusing more on infrastructure? In all of these 24 trillion or thereabout, we have a huge percentage that is going into debt servicing, isn't it?
Well, debt servicing is crazy and it's really very disturbing. When you look at the amount we'll be using to spend to service debt for this entire budget, I can tell you it's a lot of worry for Nigeria. Recall that first quarter of this year, we spent approximately 80%, and I'm just being charitable, of all revenue to service debt. By the end of this budget, 2023, both the main budget and supplementary budget, we might be spending of our revenue, we might be spending 60 to 70% of our revenue, not to buy vehicle for Mr. President, both the first and the second, no, not to fix pen for the Speaker of the House of Representatives, no, not to even change the seat of the Senate President, the President of Senate, no, it will be to service debt. In case we forget, when you look at what happened under Ways and Means, when humongous amounts had been released, to Nigerian government as against what the law was as at that time. Unfortunately, when I see this new budget, because this government is new, I don't know how they are going to quickly raise funds. It means we'll still have to go to debt market, maybe to raise funds locally or abroad, or to use open market operation, or to go to the exchange, or to approach the central bank, hoping when money comes from crude oil, under Ways and Means, but it's all the way raising debt to finance. And I think we need to start rethinking our energy for collection of debt, especially when we collect debt and the impact of debt on the economy. You see, this is what economy says about debt, and it's important. You know, we are at the very beginning of this administration. There are three key things that economists are bothered about, or economists bothered about, when it comes to issue of debt. First, what is debt to GDP? The debt to GDP in Nigeria is really very, very accommodating. We have less than 50%. About 40% or less is what we have as debt to GDP. But in economics, it is not sufficient condition. It is a necessary condition. It is not the sufficient condition. The second condition will be, what is our revenue component to debt service, which is what I just mentioned. When we need to spend more than half of our revenue, more than 60% of our revenue to service debt, then it no longer makes sense. Right. What economists say we should stay with is 1/3. The third, but the most important, in the last 8 years, what is the impact of debt? What percentage has debt increased, and what percentage has the overall economy, the impact of debt measurable has increased? The economy has only increased by 2 to 3%. Meanwhile, our debt collection has increased on the average, I'm talking per annum, on the average, by over 20%. The implication is that in spite of this humongous amount that we have collected as debt, the impact is not getting directly into our economy and into our country.
All right. Now, let's look at the little devil in the details. Like they say, the devil is in the details. Now, it looks like we're a country that loves buying vehicles. And there are Nigerians are already talking. By the way, the boats that a lot of Nigerians has raised eyebrows about, the presidency is already clarifying the issues. For example, the National Assembly said they've removed that item and now taking it to replace it with student loan. And the student loan item is, in fact, supposed to be 10 billion. So they added that was supposed to be 5 billion. They put it another 5 billion to make it 10 billion. Now, the presidency, through Bayo Onanuga, who released a statement today, said, look, that has been a proposition from the President Buhari era. Because the government is a continuum, the president had, in fact, reduced the budget from that item from 200 billion to 62 billion. That is President Tinubu reducing that item. Also, they went further to say it is not just a luxury boat, that it is a boat that has security paraphernalia, or the security features that could be used by the Nigerian Navy. From this explanation, Mr. Alhaji, this is a security, because they've told us now that it is a security item. What do you make of it?
Well, I think communication for me is very key. The way the budget was presented, it was not properly presented and communicated. You know, one of the things that we must be very careful of is issue of security, because one of the reasons why we are not having enough investor in Nigeria today, especially investment in real sector, are just security concerns around Nigeria. What international television is saying about us is as though when you walk on the street of your house, you will automatically be kidnapped, or there is a bullet coming somewhere to take you down. Nigeria has a huge population. Even though we have our challenges, these challenges are not they are not unique to Nigeria. They are ubiquitous. Even though the concern of many is what Nigerian authority is doing about this level of insecurity. So I'm just trying to play, a balance in there. So here is it. It's as though government is being reactionary. It's after Nigerians had complained that government is coming forward to say, oh, sorry, wait a moment. I think the National Assembly has saved the day by removing that item. And my advice is that if this item is so important and it's for security, it should go directly into the next budget 2024, while those that can convince the National Assembly security expert, we go there, we explain to the Committee of National Assembly why this should be voted for, why this should be procured by the Nigerian government, why we need it, what makes our waterways to be unsafe, what will be losing if this is not done. These are the things point and speak to Nigeria from the point of security and economy. These are two major ailments that this economy is facing right now. Any economy that is not that is not safe, automatically the economy will come down, no matter how wealthy the nation may be. And in case you don't know, two countries are currently chasing Nigeria's position as the largest economy in Africa. Of course, South Africa is there and Egypt is there. And South Africa, in spite of high inflation, is growing so fast that we are worried that they may take the position of the largest economy in Nigeria. If Nigeria is not going to rebase, I think that overtaking will happen between 2024 and 2025. So we need to push the right narratives forward for Nigeria if that particular item must be in it. I must also say kudos to the National Assembly by saying they have added to the student. I think rather than just making it student loan, we have a lot of decadence in our universities. And I was of course, I had one of my first degree was actually in Nigeria, in one of the universities in Nigeria, particularly Obafemi Awolowo University. And I can tell you what our parents used in terms of facility in the university for science students, for social science students, for law students, for all. And I'm not speaking for one university. I'm speaking of at least all federal university. That money should have been voted. You know, in a matter of 1 or 2 years, you will see ASU come back to say we're going on strike because facility are getting decayed, because facility are not being renewed by the federal government and their employer. I think the National Assembly should use this as a window to look at those critical concern of ASU and vote that 5 billion naira into critical infrastructure in the university to solve challenges. Why our graduates, why are they not competitive in terms of engineering? When they go abroad, all the theories and something have been learned in Nigeria, they put in place, they have the right environment. The same with our medical doctors, they have the right environment and they try. Hardly will you see a developed country and you see their facilities that Nigerians are not very good at what they are doing. What is the challenge? Why can't we bring the technology that seems to be missing? If we can procure this the same, whether with equipment for medical students or engineering students or any student that needs this, which I think beyond salary increase has been the clamor for ASU as a board.
Now, I like us to wrap up on this note. And this is one area that the question marks have also been raised. There is a lot of outcry over the 28 billion allocated to the State House. And there are also the budget for 28 billion for the purchase of luxury cars for the presidency and the First Lady, as well as renovation of the president's residence, among other spending for the State House. That on one hand. The other one is also the planned spending of 2.9 billion on sports utility vehicles for the presidential villa and another 2.9 billion to replace operational vehicles for the presidency. What do you make of those items?
Well, I can say that it comes with a lot of worry for me, especially the vehicles and the vehicles and the vehicles. I studied the last 6 budgets in the last administration. The recurring thing is vehicle and vehicle and vehicle. And I'm wondering if vehicles are used per year or 2 years and they abandon and another vehicle, is that time we started questioning the old vehicles that we had or that have been procured? Where exactly are they? Because I believe they cannot just vanish. Are we getting value? Even if we say we must, political office holder must drive brand new vehicles. What happened to the ones that were there before? And this is an issue that must become part of our legislation. If not, it becomes a culture. I've heard you interview a senator that was saying that even the kind of vehicle being used, they've been upgrading it over the time. But the roads are not getting upgraded, but the poor are getting poorer. What seems to be consistent as we're increasing the number of vehicles is a number of people that are becoming living below poverty line. Not my figures, but the figure coming from National Bureau of Statistics, figure coming from UNDP, figure coming from IMF and World Bank, which they have used in their data open time, is that those living below the poverty line are increasing. Those living in multidimensional poverty are increasing in spite of new vehicles and things that government is. Let me tell you why. It is because most of those vehicles are imported. They are not made in Nigeria. So if they are made in Nigeria, jobs would have been created here, opportunity would have been created. And so the dollar that is scarce, we will have to exchange to buy and give these monies to another economy. What we are telling the economy is keep growing, we we will keep using. This is so true. Beyond the presidency, the entire Nigerian system, we continue to import. We have one of us producing cars in a car in Nigeria. We have another company in Nigeria. Leadership is by example. We must start to demonstrate that if you want to use 5-10 cars, let's start by saying from these 5-10 cars, can we start 50% that will be made in Nigeria? I saw the Nigerian military, some of the local vehicles, and I was so excited when I saw the paramilitary and the military using some, not all their vehicles, but some of the vehicles are made in Nigeria. I don't want to mention brand name, on a live television because it's a commercial issue. So can we, as leaders of our country, legislature, start to use made in Nigeria so that we can grow this economy? We cannot talk of growing the economy and we are doing the exact opposite. To talk about the structure and innovation that the president wants to, maybe there is no time. When time permits, maybe on another platform, we will have conversation about the real estate that government wants to fix. And I hope that all will be well with Nigeria as a matter of time.
Paul Alaje, Economist, thank you so much indeed for your time tonight. I appreciate you shedding light on some of these. Of course, members of the National Assembly supposed to also give their own insight on the reasons behind. I'm hoping that we'll be able to have a drill with them on some of these items and the reasons for the passage. It was expedited, yes, for the interest of Nigeria, but at what cost? And what are the reasons and the sense behind all of this? Nigerians need to scrutinize. And that's why we're having this conversation. Thank you so much, Paul Alaje, for your time tonight.
Thank you so much for having me.